So I just watched Hurry Up Tomorrow, and God, this movie is the worst movie I've seen in theaters in a long time. Hello everyone, and who am I kidding, man? I can't pretend like I'm in a good mood right now after sitting through that film. Yeah, so I watched The Weeknd's new movie, Hurry Up Tomorrow, and I had a pretty bad time, alright? Like, really bad. I wish I could say I laughed throughout the movie because of how bad it was, but I only laughed a single time, and I'll get to that later. Otherwise, I spent my time being bored and extremely disappointed. So to really get you to understand why I'm so upset with this movie, I have to explain a few things. First of all, The Weeknd is my favorite singer ever. I have listened to all of this man's albums front to back an unreasonable amount of times. That is my guy. And out of all the albums that I've listened to this year so far, Hurry Up Tomorrow is my favorite album. If you look at the amount of hours I've spent just listening to this one album, you would probably collapse from shock. It's a little insane, actually. But it was an incredible album. When it was announced that there was a film coming that shared the same title as the album, I had some mixed feelings. A part of me was extremely nervous because The Idol, another project that The Weeknd was a lead in, was fucking awful. His acting was pretty atrocious and the plot was a complete mess. So him coming back to do another project was definitely something that had me feeling fearful. But I was also a little excited because if the movie was as good as the album was, it had a chance. Especially since the album was based on his own life. It had some extremely powerful themes. Not to mention, the album itself felt like a super cinematic film on its own. Plus, the cinematography actually looked pretty good in the trailers. I could tell that compared to The Idol, a lot of heart was actually going into this. It didn't help though. I wish it did, but it didn't. So let's get into why this movie sucks so much. And by the way, actually no, I'm not doing that this time. We're going major spoilers this time because I just don't think it's worth your time to sit and watch this movie. I'm sorry. So, you know the drill. Positives first, negatives after. So what did I like about this movie? The cinematography was good sometimes, I guess. And Jenna Ortega's acting was pretty good in this movie. And I like this one scene in the movie where Abel, which if you didn't know is The Weeknd's real name, shows Jenna's character, who I don't remember the name of, so I'm just going to call Jenna, the early draft of his Hurry Up Tomorrow song, and she starts crying. I only liked that scene because it was relatable. I almost cried too when I heard that outro. And the soundtrack itself was good because it came from The Weeknd's album that I love, and that's it. That's all the praise I have in me, man. This movie was so unfun to watch. So now for the negatives. And this list is going to be so fucking long, man, because there really aren't very many redeemable things here. We may be here a while. So first of all, the opening of this movie is pretty horrendous. We watch Abel get ready for his show for a while and then watch him perform the entirety of the first song on his album live to an audience. The lighting is cool in the stadium for this scene, I guess, but we just kind of watch the camera follow Abel around for 5 minutes straight while we listen to cheering in the background. And sure, Abel's singing is impressive, but showing the whole song is a waste of time. It's not like this movie is a musical, nor does the song being shown fully add anything to the story. It just kills 5 minutes of a very short hour and 45-minute runtime and feels like filler. But since it was a song I enjoyed, I wasn't necessarily upset with the movie yet, but I was already beginning to feel like maybe this movie might let me down. But I was still hopeful. Bad idea. Second, something that drove me really fucking crazy in this movie is how many spinning shots and flashing lights are in it. At first, it felt kind of motivated, representative of how all over the place and disorganized Abel's life and mind are, but it just doesn't stop. I swear like 50% of the movie was either us watching the camera doing 360 no-scope tricks on the actors or the lights flashing constantly like we were sitting in a theater beside a police car. It was so exhausting to sit through. It went from being a potentially creative choice to being the sole reason I felt like I needed my brain to be scanned for health reasons. And speaking of things that felt motivated but weren't, the aspect ratios changed a few times in this movie, but I can't really figure out why. Like the movie starts almost in a tight little box, which sort of makes sense because it seems representative of how Abel feels. trapped. And then it expands once he goes out to perform to what we're used to, almost as if performing on stage is his way to feel free and in control again. That much I feel like I get, but it doesn't really do that again in a motivated way that feels similar later. It feels like it kind of just happens because it can. For me, it came off as just trying to seem more sophisticated than it was at random points in the movie. And speaking of that, the whole movie feels like that. Like it's way better and more creative than it actually is. And that bogs it down quite a bit. There are a lot of shots that feel like they're in the movie just to look cool, but don't really mean anything at all, and therefore give me the opposite vibe. Like, why am I looking at shots of blurred nothingness with glowing, blinking lights for long stretches of time to the sound of The Weeknd's music? I don't know, and I don't think the movie does either. Well, that's not true, I guess. Like I said, it feels like these shots were just tossed in there along with other randomly placed over-the-top shots to make the movie seem more creative than it is. But without real motivation, it all feels empty and pointless. That's honestly the perfect word to describe this movie. And it really hurts me to say that because I like the idea that Abel was going for with this movie and can see the vision throughout the movie. So a while back, Abel lost his voice on stage due to a damaged mental state and he got disrespectfully booed because he could no longer perform. So this movie's supposed to cover where his headspace was beforehand, how his lifestyle was, and how he was affected and what decisions he made after that fateful night. In concept, it feels like such a deep, introspective film, and I'm all for it. The idea was great, but the execution wasn't. You watch this whole movie feeling like you didn't learn anything, and the only reason you would feel any attachment at all to Abel is because you were already a super fan of The Weeknd. And even me, as said super fan, was not moved. This movie has so many reasons why it ends up feeling like a pointless slog. For one, it's way too long. Like, if I explain to you what the plot of this movie is and you haven't seen it, you're gonna wonder why it's almost 2 hours long. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So Abel goes out to perform his first track from his album, Hurry Up Tomorrow, then parties a bunch. But he's hiding a deep pain beneath it all. There's this woman that he wronged in the past that he wants to call and talk to, but she never answers him anymore. This eventually takes a toll on his mind along with all the faked happiness, and this fucked up mental damages his voice on stage during his second performance. So he runs off and bumps into Jenna, who he takes out and has the best night of his life. They stay in a hotel, he tries to abandon her in the morning, and she knocks him out and ties him to a bed until he admits why he's in pain. And when he does, he wakes up back at the beginning of the movie a new man, as Abel instead of The Weeknd. And we learn Jenna wasn't real. That's the whole movie. Some other dumb shit happens in between, but that's really the gist. The only other things I didn't mention are that his manager hypes him up to think he's like a god or something, and then later ends up getting killed by Jenna at the end. But again, not real, so who cares? Regardless, you're probably thinking, wow, that doesn't seem like enough to cover that much movie. And you'd be right. You know what it would cover? Maybe a music video or a short film, but not a full-length feature. That's why in the movie we end up with a billion filler shots that don't add anything to the story. Parties, attempts at pretty shots that don't matter, conversations that feel like they were written by AI. It's just a bunch of nothing smeared on top of the general premise of the movie. And really, this movie does just feel like a music video stretched out to 105 minutes. Abel's songs from the album are scattered throughout the movie and don't always feel like they're placed with a purpose, and we listen to them on top of shots with no dialogue. We also have Abel live performing songs for probably a solid 15 minutes of the runtime on top of this. 15 minutes! Do you see what I mean when I say that this movie is mostly filler? And this leads pretty well into another problem I have. This movie feels like an extended ad for The Weeknd too, and it's a little cringe. The best example of this I can think of is at the end of the movie when Jenna has him tied up. She plays full songs that The Weeknd has made in the past and basically hypes up how deep the meanings of them are and how incredible they are, even if they haven't charted. Even as a The Weeknd fan, I found this pathetic. Don't get me wrong, I loved the song she was talking about, but having her character sit there and break down the songs in ways I already knew as a fan, and then tell him that she's surprised certain songs that were beautifully made didn't get popular, made me want to throw up. It just felt weird knowing Abel was in the writing room himself stroking the fuck out of his own dick like, yeah, I made some blaps that not everyone fucked with as much as they should, but I did great. Like, ugh, bro, come on, that's so annoying. Speaking of annoying, every single fucking character character in this movie is insufferable, which makes this movie so hard to sit through. Literally all three of our leads are just obnoxious for one reason or another. Abel's manager is a dick that seems to only care about Abel rising to the top and not about Abel's feelings. Abel himself is either an ass to everyone or a whiny little bitch when he brought the pain on himself. And Jenna is, well, frankly, Jenna is just kind of there. Her character really isn't that compelling. I know she's like all in his head or whatever, but they bring up stuff about her past and about how her mother hates her and everything, and it goes absolutely nowhere. I'm pretty sure she's supposed to be like a side of Abel that he wasn't addressing or something, but it doesn't really matter, honestly. She was a big part of the movie, and while her acting was actually pretty good, her character was not. And since we're talking about it, and I'm sure everyone has seen clips of the film by now, the acting in this movie is really fucking bad most of the time. Barry does, okay for the scenes he's in sometimes, I guess. But Abel is pretty... yeah. All of his best scenes are when he only has to act with his face and he doesn't speak. They aren't great, but they're better. Once he opens his mouth, though, the scene has like a 100% chance of being impossible to take seriously. There's one scene in the movie that's hilarious, though, and that's when Abel is arguing with Jenna because he's trying to abandon her in that hotel and she doesn't want him to. And while she's yelling, he's like... Let me try to get this right, okay? This is what he said, verbatim. This is how he sounded. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. It has got to be the least convincing anger I have ever seen. He just fully embraces his zesty side, and I was dying. There was no way I was going to be able to take that shit seriously, bro. No way. So there you have it. Every single little thing I had a problem with while watching this movie. The characters suck. The movie feels pretentious, and overall, it's fucking boring. And again, I am such a big The Weeknd fan, so I was really hoping I would love this, but I didn't. I wanted to get up and leave about 20 minutes into the movie. What hurts me the most is that, like I said, I could see the potential of the idea and could visualize exactly what Abel was going for, but he just didn't execute it well at all. This is why filmmakers always say not to make your first movie your dream movie, because you end up completely fucking up what you wanted your masterpiece to be because you just didn't have the experience of doing things wrong yet. Hurry Up Tomorrow is officially out now and it can't be redone, and that makes me sad. So I leave you all with this. Do yourself a favor and save your money, even if you love The Weeknd with all of your heart, because this movie is unfortunately not worth the watch. 2 out of 10.